Laura Brown. She's the executive director from Tennessee Alliance for Legal Services, and she's just going to be sharing some information with us today about how free civil legal services can help improve lives and empower patients. So I'm going to go ahead and let her get to it. She is happy to take questions as we go along. So if you either want to drop those in the chat or feel free to take yourself off mute and ask her a question, she is open to that. Or if you want to just hang on to those questions till the end, she's going to try to leave a few minutes then as well. So without further ado, take it away, Laura.
I will. Thank you so much, Maddie. As was mentioned, my name is Laura Brown, and I am the executive director of an organization called Tennessee Alliance for Legal Services. And we will talk a little bit about Tennessee Alliance for Legal Services, or TALS, as we go along. But I just wanted to mention that I am an attorney, so any information presented is for educational purposes only and shouldn't be construed as legal advice for specific situations. Specific situations have all kinds of details and facts that we probably wouldn't be able to get into in this type of setting. So educational purposes only, and I promise lawyers are people too, but I hope today to give you a little bit of information about some resources that exist that can help you as you interact with your patients and clients, basically to improve their lives, to help them resolve legal problems, and also to empower them. So we'll start. Sorry, I got to click before I can move over. I'm going to start by just introducing Tennessee Alliance for Legal Services before we get into anything else. And Tennessee Alliance for Legal Services, or TALS, was formed in 1977 as what's called a state support organization. So in the 70s and 80s, there was lots of change and upheaval going on. And there's an organization called the Legal Services Corporation, or LSC, that funds legal aid organizations, right? Prior to the late 70s and early 80s, there weren't many restrictions on the federal money that the LSC receives and then distributes to legal aid organizations in all 50 states and territories. But starting in the late 70s and 80s, there became a lot more restrictions on how those funds could be used. Legal aids could no longer participate in class action lawsuits. They couldn't do any lobbying or truly and really any education work on the legislative level. They could no longer represent incarcerated individuals. They could only represent U.S. citizens. The laundry list just goes on and on and on. So what a lot of states did in that time was form what's called a state support organization. And TALS was one of those organizations that was founded. So all the legal aids came together and said, we need somebody who can do the things we can't do, and we need to go ahead and form this organization. All states in the union just about formed one, but there are only about 6 to 9 of these state support agencies still alive and operating and functional in the United States. TALS is one of them, so we're very fortunate to have this organization. I've been here around 2 years, but like I said, we've been around since 77. So our mission and what we do is we strengthen the delivery of civil legal help to vulnerable Tennesseans. And we do that through a number of ways that we're going to talk about in detail. But we do that, and we support the legal aid organizations that exist and other access to justice organizations that exist. We're a nonprofit. We've been a nonprofit since just about right after we were formed. So late 70s, we have a 33-member board made up of access to justice partners all across the state of Tennessee. And one thing about TALS is we are statewide. So our provision of legal services is on a statewide basis, whereas legal aids do provide their services on a more it's more bound by geographical regions. And we'll talk about all of those the 4 legal aid organizations that exist in Tennessee in a moment. So that's a little bit about TALS. As Maddie mentioned, if you have any questions whatsoever, please pop them in the chat or just go ahead and come off mute and ask. It always works better if this is more of a dialogue and kind of a back and forth rather than you guys just listening to me talk. And I'm always, willing to answer questions if I don't get to something that you really had a question about, or if you need more details or anything like that. At the end of the presentation, I do have my contact information, and I'm always happy to answer emails. So a little bit about TALS, a little bit about myself. Okay, so let's talk about the need for civil legal aid. By the numbers, in Tennessee, we have about 1.2 million people who would qualify for legal aid services. And those individuals are at 125%, or in some cases, 250% of federal poverty level and below. So if you look at the data, you can see that there's about 1.2 million Tennesseans at any given time, plus or minus, the statistical variations of individuals who would actually qualify for free civil legal aid. That's a lot of people. And when you look at this, you can see that it is estimated, and these are 2023 numbers, 2022 and 2023 numbers. It is estimated by different studies that TALS has done. We do statewide legal assessments, and other studies done by Legal Services Corporation, that there's approximately one civil legal aid attorney for every 10,000 people who qualify. So we know that our civil legal attorneys can keep large caseloads and do lots and lots of work, but we also know that it's quite impossible for one attorney, right, to manage 10,000 potential cases. In 2022, across the state of Tennessee, civil legal aid served over 30,000 people and households and over 13,000 children. But remember, we talked, our number is there's 1.2 million people who would qualified for the services. And we know that over 30,000 were served, and 13,000, almost 14,000 children were served, but that's still just kind of a drop in the bucket if we think about it. And these numbers represent folks that go to a traditional legal aid, so doesn't include the numbers for TALS or some of the medical legal partnerships that are in Tennessee or some of the other access to justice organizations. And you can see that in 2022, a total of 13,514 cases were closed for the over 30,000 people that were served. So again, we can see that there's a big disparity and a big gap between the number of people who would qualify for services and the number of services that are actually being able to be offered and the number of folks who are able to take advantage of them. And that's for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes folks don't know that they have a civil legal issue, that they don't know that what they're facing or what they're experiencing is a legal problem. And sometimes, and sometimes they know what they're facing is a legal problem, but they don't know how to access that legal service. So we're going to kind of talk about both of those things as we go throughout the rest of this presentation. So now when we're thinking about this large number of individuals who would qualify for civil legal services or legal aid of some sort. Now we just need to talk about where we can go for legal help. Here is a slide that we use frequently at TALS, and it just kind of lists a lot of the legal access to justice and civil legal service providers across the state of Tennessee. And I'm happy to provide this slide to you guys, or this whole PowerPoint, right, presentation,
Thank you.
so that you can see it. And it just kind of outlines and lists some of the larger legal services organizations throughout the state of Tennessee. And I do provide contact information for a number of these organizations later on in the presentation. But you can kind of see here, we have West Tennessee Legal Services, we have Tennessee Justice Center. We're going to talk about those guys in a moment. One thing that I didn't include in the presentation that would be important for you guys is Justice for All, which is, it's www.justiceforall.org, which is an initiative of the Tennessee Supreme Court. And they have a lot of information that is interesting and important. And then you can see Legal Aid Society of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberlands is listed, Legal Aid of East Tennessee, just Disability Rights, which is an underutilized service as well. Just lots of organizations here in the state of Tennessee who do provide those access to justice and those free civil legal services. 4 out of 5, our research has shown, 4 out of 5 Tennesseans don't really know where they can go to get legal help. They don't even know where to start. Sometimes they make their way to us, sometimes they make their way to legal aid, and sometimes they make their way to you. So like I said, the purpose of this is to kind of give you guys some resources and tools that you can talk about and you can use with your patients and clients. The big categories of free civil legal services in the state of Tennessee include the legal aid organizations, and there are 4 of them. So there is Legal Aid of East Tennessee, which serves the counties in East Tennessee. There's Legal Aid of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberlands, and my next slide has all the contact information for these guys. Serves 48 counties here in Middle Tennessee, that grand region of Middle Tennessee, and it takes a slight detour and picks up some counties in around Anderson County, so not quite to Knoxville, but almost. And then West Tennessee is divided into 2 geographical regions served by 2 different legal aid organizations. Upper West Tennessee is served by something called West Tennessee Legal Services, and lower West Tennessee, Memphis, and the 3 contiguous counties are served by Memphis Area Legal Services. There's also TALS. As I mentioned, we are statewide, and we'll talk about some of the services we provide. And then there are organizations who serve certain populations. We'll talk about those types of organizations when we think about maybe Tennessee Justice Center, right, who serves folks who have questions about Medicaid and some of our medical legal partnerships here in the state of Tennessee. So that's just kind of a broad, as you're thinking about who would provide these services and how to, when you just think about where to send folks, those are the broad categories of organizations that I recommend. And here is the contact information for each of the legal aids. I've included both their website and their phone number. The websites are really important for these legal aids because in general, they have online intake, particularly Legal Aid of East Tennessee and West Tennessee Legal Services. Legal Aid of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberlands and Memphis are working on online intake, but Legal Aid of East Tennessee or LAET and West Tennessee Legal Services do have online intake. So if you have a client who says, I'm facing an eviction and I don't know where to go, this would be the first place, and they're in those service areas, what I would suggest that they do. You can always have them call, but just about everybody has access to the internet through a smartphone, and all of these websites are smartphone adapted. So folks could go onto the websites, pull up the online intake and fill out that online intake on their phone, and then that gets it immediately over to the appropriate legal aid organization. Okay, so I would definitely recommend doing the online intake. Calling is also good, but just know that, calling, they receive a million calls, probably not quite a million, but many, many, many calls, right? For one receptionist who's usually manning those phones. So just know that sometimes folks have to leave a voicemail and then receive a call back. That's why I always recommend, if an organization offers that online intake, to take advantage of it and to urge your clients to take advantage of that as well. And like I said, I know that Legal Aid of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberlands and Memphis are both working on having an online intake as well. So that's coming soon, but you can just keep checking back on the website if you're worried, if you're serving clients in either of those 2 service areas. What I would think about if as you guys are interacting with patients and clients, is if you have someone, I did want to make you aware of this new program, is if you have a family, um, an adult, so someone over 18, and then there are children in the house, so under 18, and they are TANF eligible, you can send them directly to any one of these 4 legal aids. They all have a brand new program called Family Centered Legal Solutions, or FCLS, and it is specifically designed to provide free civil legal services to families with children. Okay. There's also a referral form. What I can do is I am happy to share that with you guys as well. The referral form for FCLS gives you the email address to where you will email that referral form directly to the intake person for each of the legal aids. And on the back of the referral form, we have the state of Tennessee all divided up in the service areas for the 4 legal aid organizations. So if you are trying to send a referral for someone in Lake County, it'll tell you exactly who you should send it to. If you're trying to send a referral to a legal aid and you have a client in Sullivan County or in Union County or going over to Giles County, it kind of breaks the state up and shows you clearly which legal aid organization you would send that referral to. But this program is specifically designed, like I said, for those families with children, and it can be any legal need that they have. So if you have someone who comes to you or mentions to you that they're having problem with their landlord or they're having problems at school, we do a lot of work related to school discipline. They're trying to expel my child. They're not honoring my child's 504 plan. They're not honoring my child's IEP. Any issues like that. So basically anything that the family needs to ensure stability, this program can provide those legal services for and those legal resources. I'm trying to think of what other issues. We just had a call this morning with our advocates, and there were 75 people who provide direct services to these families with children all across the state of Tennessee on this call. And we talk through divorces are a huge, huge issue with domestic violence. And then the next biggest category of need was folks facing housing issues, either from a landlord or from a mortgage company or some issue along those lines, something related to housing. But we also do expungements every single day for folks because that increases a lot of economic stability for the families. We also see issues related to income maintenance or the need to get on some type of public benefit. Any of these legal aids can also help the families access those and kind of navigate that maze. We had a situation where somebody was blind and her landlord was trying to evict her, and the landlord gave the individual her letter, her eviction notice, in writing. Not acceptable. She is blind. She cannot, you know what I'm saying? Like it was just like giving her a blank piece of paper. So we were able to get the attorney was able to intervene, and we were able to get that dismissed, and we were able to ensure that that individual was able to stay in her apartment, completely safe with some disability accommodations built in as well. So next time they needed to communicate with the tenant in writing, they would not give it to her on a piece of paper that wasn't written in Braille or translated for her in some way or read to her. So that's just an example of what the FCLS program can do. And I urge everyone to take part of that and to check, send the referral to their legal aids. The referral is just a one-page form, and it just asks for a little information about the client, and then you send it on. Obviously, folks have to qualify, and the qualification for access to the program is very similar to any other TANF program because this is TANF funded through the Department of Human Services here in the state of Tennessee. Adult and a child, and then they have to be at or below federal poverty level or qualify for certain other resources. So any questions there? I'm hoping that this might be a really good resource for some of your clients, and I really encourage you guys to either reach out to me, and like I mentioned, my email address will be at the end of this presentation, or send that referral form directly to those legal aids and get them involved in your client's issues. Any questions there? The only thing we can't do with this program is anything related to the criminal world. So any type of criminal law we cannot do. So if they're asking questions about a DUI or something like that, they would need to seek advice from either someone who practices criminal law or a DA or a public defender. But we do expungements. I know sometimes folks think of that as being on the criminal side of the house, but expungements are considered civil, and we do expungements all day, every day, and help folks get driver's licenses back and all those kinds of things. Any questions?
Laura, I have a question.
Yes.
My name is Billy Evans from the Freeman Clinic. Thank you for all this information. It's going to be invaluable to our patients.
Awesome.
And I'm very ignorant of your services. So if I ask questions that are redundant, please forgive me. A couple of questions. One is related to undocumented workers or people who are here undocumented. Can you hit that a little bit more about what you may provide to navigate them, because that may be an issue? Second is, can you provide any type of JPEGs or anything that we can put on social media to advertise it internally to our patients as far as contact information? And also we can use that image to put on our website. We have a resource page for each one of our counties we serve, and we can put that on there for them to contact that, so they can bypass us and go to something that's keep us out of the loop on some of this stuff. So thank you for addressing those two things.
Sure, absolutely. And the second one first, we can absolutely provide any type of JPEGs. We do social media, not advertising, but you know what I'm saying? TALS has a social media page, and we put out information about FCLS, and we put out information about the helpline that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. So we're happy to supply those. I can send those directly. Maddie, would you like me to send them to you, and then you can get them to folks? Okay, fantastic. That's what I'll do. And give me just a moment, because I'll need to collect those. We use Canva, so it's a format, you know what I'm saying, that I think a lot of folks will be familiar with, and there's a lot of flexibility. So it's not it's pretty user friendly. Since I'm the social media person, we're a small organization. I forgot to mention that. We just now hit double digits, so we just now have 10 employees, and I'll talk about who they are and kind of how it works just a little bit as we get along there. And then the second one was undocumented folks, and I see there's another question, but let me take that undocumented question very quickly. So any services provided by the 4 organizations that you can see on your screen right now, Legal Aid of East Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, West Tennessee Legal Services, and Memphis, any services have to be provided to U.S. citizens. That's one of those changes that was made and caused TALS to be created in 1977, right? Legal Services Corporation said, the federal government said, that Legal Services Corporation funding can only go to serve those who are U.S. citizens. But again, TALS was formed to do the things that legal aids cannot do, right? So we offer a number of direct legal services that we don't care if someone comes from Mars, right? We don't check documents. We don't ask any questions about documents. We are here to serve all who call us. So there's a helpline, and there's also an online portal for legal questions, and we'll get to those resources in a moment. But unfortunately for the legal aids, if you're trying to send folks to legal aids, they have to be U.S. citizens. Sometimes there's an exception for domestic violence, but that is very narrow. It's a very narrow exception, and usually the only legal aid I think that has that grant is Legal Aid of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberland. So right here where we're at, they have 2 attorneys who are able to help folks with issues related to immigration, but it's so narrow that for me to get into it would be, it would be way more information. That's why I just say in general, folks have to be U.S. citizens. It's just the 2 attorneys here in Middle Tennessee who are providing those services. So they always maintain caseloads of 40 to 60. And, the demand for folks that just kind of learned about them through word of mouth is astronomical. So we are over here at TALS actually looking at ways that we can help serve undocumented folks and folks who, may not have everything to qualify as a U.S. citizen, but who desperately need legal services. That's what we're designed to do. And we're looking at other ways we can do that and provide those direct in-person legal services, because right now we just provide legal services via the phone and internet. So send them to TALS, and you'll get all that contact information here in a bit, and I'll tell you how to do that, and we will provide all those services. Okay, fantastic. And language, folks often ask us about languages. Unfortunately, we do have a very small staff. I only have 4 part-time attorneys who are on the helpline. None of them speak anything other than English, even though we've tried so hard to hire folks who speak different languages. But we do have Language Line. And I know Language Line can be cumbersome and bulky, but it is a way, and we are able to serve folks who speak any of the languages that Language Line serves. And we've been lucky to get like dialects of Swahili right through Language Line. So we do have that resource. We use it every single week. I actually just got the bill right before we started talking from Language Line for our services for last month. So we use it all the time. We're very familiar with it. We've also been known, even though we don't technically provide direct legal services, to go meet with case managers who might speak Spanish and meet with their clients in person. We are here to serve at TALS, and so are the legal aids. They just have the restrictions, right? We're here to serve, and we will do what we need to do to make sure folks get service. Okay, and it looks like Brooke has a question. I'm sorry, Brooke.
That's okay. I was just wondering if you all work with either families who are seeking conservatorship or individuals who may be trying to fight conservatorship.
That is a fantastic question. So let's take the one where we have families who are seeking conservatorship. Under the FCLS program and all 4 of these legal aids, we get a lot of questions about children who are getting ready to turn 18 and who may or may not have a disability and whose parents are seeking conservatorship of them for, the protection of that child, right? We are able to serve those individuals under the Family-Centered Legal Solutions, under FCLS. So yes, we are absolutely able to do it. They provide that assistance and help, even if the child turns 18, because it has to be a child under 18, while we're providing services, as long as they are in high school and it's anticipated that they will graduate before they turn 19, we continue providing that service. So that's how we're able to provide those conservatorships to a lot of those individuals who really, really need it and whose families don't have a lot of other options. I know through mental health and substance abuse? I'm sorry, I used to work for the state of Tennessee, and I really should know this. Sometimes you can get a conservatorship, or through DIDS. It may be through DIDS. They will help you get a conservator, but sometimes that process takes a while. So it might be helpful to kind of do this on 2 fronts and send a referral over to the legal aid, and then also contact DIDS or Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse and see if they can help with those conservatorships as well. As far as
I know that we have
Go ahead.
used disability rights to fight
Yep.
a conservatorship.
Yes. So, and that's what I was going to say. As far as fighting a conservatorship, I've seen the legal aid organizations take those cases occasionally. I will say that even here at TALS, we get so many calls about folks who are not happy with conservators or have questions about conservators, and we try our best to answer those questions. But TALS is not equipped to do that in court, right, fighting of the conservatorships. You could try the legal aids. My next suggestion would be disability rights. They do a lot of that work with the disabled population. So either those who are intellectually or developmentally disabled, as well as I've seen them serve individuals who are 60 plus who might have some type of disability associated with advanced age. I've seen disability rights fight those conservatorships. We do need more help in that area because it's just kind of crazy. It's kind of wild. But definitely, if you have a child seeking, a family seeking a conservatorship on behalf of a child, the FCLS program can help with that and offer some more resources there. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Oh, you're so welcome. Any other questions about FCLS or help that it might be able to offer clients? Okay, I'll get you the referral form, and I would encourage you to send over those referrals. Each of the legal aids is receiving, a great support in order to provide these services and to hire new attorneys to make sure that these services are provided. So, and they also provide other things. I know I talked about FCLS a lot, but each of the legal aids also has a program that helps individuals get on SSI or SSDI. So accessing those types of benefits. If someone's SSI or SSDI application has been denied, the legal aids can take those cases and help those folks access those benefits. They also have something called the Title IIIB Legal Assistance Program that provides help to individuals who are age 60 plus, and that's a program through the Tennessee Commission on Aging and Disability, and it provides free civil legal services to, like I said, those 60 plus who may not meet the income guidelines for legal aid, so they can be over income, what's called over that, 125% of the federal poverty level, but still receive services. So if you have a senior, send them on. Try to think of other things. And then, of course, legal aids, have other funding to provide housing, right to counsel, making sure folks can stay in their homes and stay employed because they have a place to go, right? And a place, a roof over their heads. And they can also help with divorces, family law cases, some custody related issues, and those types of things. So any other questions about the legal aids? Okay. All right, so that was kind of an overview of what they can provide and their contact information. Oh, sorry, kind of went through little fast. All right, so now let's move to what Tennessee Alliance for Legal Services, or what TALS, does and how we can help some of your clients. Some of the things that we do, just kind of in general, we have substantive task forces on each of the major areas of law. So 7 or 8 major areas of law like employment and family law. We have task force meetings and task force calls every month where practitioners all across the state of Tennessee get together, talk through issues that they're seeing, brainstorm solutions, talk about, in family law, they were talking about stalking the other day and how to address stalking in a divorce complaint and make sure that people were protected and clients were protected. So they get together and do that on a monthly basis. We also have something called Equal Justice University. Everyone is welcome to attend. Most of our attendees happen to be legal aid attorneys and access to justice folks, but we hold that every single year in Murfreesboro at the end of August. And it's about 2.5 days of continuing legal education programming. And we have speakers. We try to inspire folks. We try to get folks energized for the work that we do and the legal services that we provide, and kind of give them a break for 2.5 days and let them network and just kind of, participate in a little self-care and go back to work after Labor Day, ready to, hit the ground running again. We also do a lot of grant coordination. I worked for the state of Tennessee for a while. I've also worked with some of the legal aids as an employee, but TAL seeks out large grants, and then we subcontract with the legal aids to provide those statewide programs like Family Centered Legal Solutions. Our SSI program is also statewide through TALS, coordinates it. We had a program called Senior Trust, Elder Trust. Holly's still on, and we provided legal services through that, and then a whole bunch of other services were provided as well. But TALS does a lot of grant coordination where we get large grants and then subcontract to the legal aids. We enjoy doing that, and it works out really, really well. TALS provides direct legal services, but we provide brief legal services, whereas the legal aids can go to court with people and do that in-person legal representation. TALS doesn't do that at this point. All of our legal services are brief legal services, and they're provided through 2 main vehicles. Help for TN, our helpline at the 1-844 Help for TN, and the website, and then something called Tennessee Free Legal Answers. So Help for TN is where we kind of send everyone. It's kind of a way through the maze, as we like to say it, because there's legal aid and bar associations and state agencies and federal agencies and nonprofits and where do I go and law school clinics. But you can go to helpfortn.org and get the help that you need all in one place. And this is a resource, helpfortn.org, that I recommend to anyone who interacts with the public and clients and patients, because you can go to this website and it has links, like it says, to legal information booklets, forms, videos. It provides a lot of basic information about renters and homeowners, like what are my rights? Someone is facing eviction. They can go here quickly and find something that would help explain and understand what their rights are if they can't get to legal aid or get to the helpline quickly. So here's just some of the blogs that we put up. Protecting your home from repair scams and other frauds, right? Renters' rights. That one is super, super popular. What are my rights as a renter? Do I have any rights? When I have utilities, if I'm a renter, what are my recourses if there's a problem? And then one that's really popular is representing yourself in general sessions courts, because unfortunately, the vast majority of folks that end up in general sessions court, which is our court here in Tennessee, like it's considered small claims court, is $25,000 or below is the monetary limit, but that's a lot of money for anybody. And sometimes for some of our clients, that can be devastating. So all of our evictions and things like that, I won't say all, the vast majority of evictions will go through what's called general sessions court. It's not a court of record, which means the cases aren't written up, right? Like if you've seen a case before, like state of Tennessee versus John Doe, right? They aren't written up. So one would have to appeal to what's called a court of record, which is a circuit court or a chancery court or a criminal court on the criminal side of the house. But general sessions is super popular and super interesting. And we're actually working on some forms. That is another thing that TALS does, is we kind of help with making things more accessible to people. So we're working with another organization, kind of helping review some general sessions forms that would make the landlord-tenant eviction process, a little more simple and straightforward for everyone. And those will be rolled out soon and be available on helpfortn.org. Another thing that's on helpfortn.org that would potentially be a good tool to help your clients, we have a bunch of bots. And they're really cute, and they really serve an awesome purpose. These bots you can click, and I just kind of have just did a screen grab from helpfortn.org under our bots. This is what the page looks like. So Renter Defender is one of our bots. He hangs out there ready to help folks. To start the Renter Defender, folks just click on Get Help. We also offer this one in Spanish. Not all of them are in Spanish, but this one is. And it kind of helps if you don't know your rights, if you can't pay rent. It can give you resources if you need help paying rent. You just answer the questions, get help, complete the interview, and you get an answer or a legal form at the end of the interview. So it helps folks empower themselves and, go out there and before they can get to legal aid or maybe the helpline, they can get some information that will help them and make them a more knowledgeable consumer if they do end up having to go to legal aid, or if they end up having to go to court on their own. It can give them that, that added bit of knowledge that they wouldn't have had prior to using this bot. And I believe Renter Defender is one where we also have chat enabled as well, and voice enabled. So not only can folks type in the answers when they do the interview, but they can also speak it. Not all of ours are voice enabled, but this one happens to be. Another one we have that's very underutilized, and I really encourage people to use it. How many times do you guys get folks coming to you saying, I need to file a divorce and I can't afford an attorney and there are no kids involved? If that's the case, this Family Champion bot can actually guide them through an interview that at the end of it, they will get the pro se divorce forms where they just literally have to hit print. So it can take that 48-page packet of pro se divorce forms that the state of Tennessee offers, and we've written the bot so the bot can guide them through the questions, because it's much less intimidating for a little bot to be asking you, what is your name? And you type in your name, or you say your name, and what is your address? And you type it in. And then at the end, you will actually get the forms completed, and you'd have to hit print, and then they could file them. Okay. They can also fill out a parenting plan if they're never married couples, and we see that so many times. Those folks that are trying to do the right thing by each other and by the child, right, and trying to get that parenting plan put together and filed. Sometimes legal aid will help with those, sometimes they won't. This little bot will help them fill that out. And again, it's much less intimidating than sitting down to, a stack of 12 pages. If you just answer what the bot asks you, it'll ask you one question at a time. We'll use branching logic so we don't ask unnecessary questions. Each question, the next question is based on the answer that was provided previously. We can help them fill these out. You can fill out a petition for divorce. That's those pro se divorces, and those are usually, unfortunately, only reserved when there are no children involved, but it will really help them fill it out because sometimes those folks fall into the gap, right? We have two people who just don't want to be married any longer, no kids involved, no domestic violence. So it's not one that would be high on legal aid's priority, but they still want to get divorced. So this little bot here can help them fill out those forms. It can also help with filling out the request for a fee waiver. And so the folks wouldn't have to pay a filing fee for filing that divorce because that can be expensive. It's a couple $100s. This will guide them through that Tennessee Supreme Court approved form. It will fill it out for them, and literally all they have to do at the end is hit print. And learn how to file your paperwork. It'll tell them what they need to do with it after they get to that point of having either the petition filled out or the fee waiver or the parenting plan, what they need to do next, their next steps. So any questions there? This is one of my favorite bots. None of the bots are used. Maybe we just need to do more advertising. Maybe that's it. Maybe I need to put it out on social media more often, that they're available, because they're available 24/7, right? Your clients can do this from the privacy and comfort of their own homes at 3 o'clock in the morning. Can't call legal aid at 3 o'clock in the morning. They can't call TALS at 3 o'clock in the morning, but they can do things like our Renter Defender bot and our family law bot. Another one, we don't have him on here, but we also have a bot that helps with workers' comp. So if you have folks with questions about workers' comp, and it was a project between TALS, Administrative Office of the Courts, several state agencies, including the Department of Workforce and Labor Development. When so many changes were made to the workers' comp laws, this bot was instituted, and he's on helpfortn.org as well. He's right there on the homepage. He will help them fill out the forms that they need to file and provide a lot of answers to commonly asked workers' comp questions, because I can imagine you guys probably get some of those sometime as well. So those are the bots. I welcome you. We have a family of them. We kind of get a little bit attached to them after a while because we live with them so long and through the design process. Another one that I always recommend and that is underutilized as well is something called the Legal Wellness Checkup. And to me, he looks like Big Hero 6, the little bot in Big Hero 6, the little guy. But he has a scales of justice, so he's not Big Hero 6, but he's one of the most recent one that got a little bit of an update and an upgrade. And the legal wellness checkup is if someone doesn't know if the issue that they're facing is a legal issue, right? So it will guide them through a guided interview, and at the end, it will help them with resources or a referral to an organization that can help them either further if they need it. It's a really cool tool. We have a lot of folks who in community partners use it. A lot of case managers use it. Again, this is something clients can do on their own. They just have to enter their email address and they will be emailed the report, or they can just get the report there if they don't enter an email address. They can get the report in a web browser. Again, this one can be used on a phone. I've done it on a phone just to test it. So it can be done on a smartphone, or it can also be done on a computer or a laptop or a tablet or anything like that. Public library. The public librarians love this one, and they send a lot of their patrons to fill out the legal wellness checkup when their patrons come to them with legal questions, because at the end of the interview, it'll give you resources and it will give you additional information. Yay, Holly, send folks to use the bots. We get these reports on use, so I want to see the use spike. I'm just kidding. So legal wellness checkup is the last bot that we had in our suite, our little family of bots. Any questions, comments, concerns about the bots? One thing I did want to say is we don't collect people's information. Oh, and that's another important point. TALS does not sell any information, right? People are often worried that if they call the helpline, we're going to sell their information to a lawyer, or somebody's going to call them and try and sell them something, or they have to pay for it. We don't really collect any information from clients other than their name, their county, and their phone number. I have to have their name because we need to know what to call them. We need their county because that's how we track our calls coming through. And we have to have their phone number because when we get to the helpline, we'll talk about how we have an answering service. So our answering service answers the call from the caller, and then we schedule an appointment for the attorneys to call them back. And that's kind of how it works. So no leaving a voicemail. You can't leave a voicemail. We've disabled that because we were finding when folks left voicemails, it was getting to be an out of control spiral. And we even have, we just never got to the bottom of the email of the voicemail pile. So, okay. So one quick thing, I pulled out some training materials for community partners that I thought might be helpful for you guys. And these are on helpfortn.org. A booklet that tells you legal information versus legal advice. Tennessee's still kind of very concerned about people who aren't licensed providing legal advice. Guidelines for court clerks, super interesting for court clerks, but also helpful for someone who is not represented by an attorney. Guidelines for librarians, it's how anyone really. We just put the librarian title on it because they were really interested in that. And then civil versus criminal law, what is that? And how could you help a client if they had a question about civil versus criminal law? Okay, so help for TN. 1844 Help for TN. This is one of the ways that TALS provides direct legal services to clients. It is a helpline. It is statewide. We answer calls in all 95 counties, and we have 4 part-time attorneys who answer these calls every single day. We provide legal advice over the phone to about 6,000 to 7,000 Tennesseans every single year through the helpline. This is where I tell folks to go if they have a quick legal question and they can't get to legal aid, or legal aid just takes too long. It is a toll-free helpline. They get to talk to a licensed Tennessee attorneys. We have attorneys on staff who were former federal court clerks. We have one that was a partner in a very large law firm for 30 years in California. We have one who was an administrative law judge, and we have another who practiced elder law and was a long-term care ombudsman for many, many, many years. So she knows way more about elder law than I will ever know. She's forgotten more about it. So we have super amounts of expertise in our attorneys who answer these helpline calls, and they do this all day, every day. One of them actually has the office right next to mine. So I hear him provide that legal advice every single day, starting at 8. If your clients are concerned that they can't get in and they're getting a message that says the helpline is full, you have to call back tomorrow. The lines open at 8:30 Central. Have them call the 844 help for TN at 8:30 Central, and they'll have a much better opportunity and a much better chance of getting on that schedule for a callback from the licensed attorney either that day or the next. We never schedule our appointments more than 24 hours or so in advance. So when they're calling in, folks are calling in to get scheduled that day or maybe first thing in the morning the next day. So we don't schedule far in advance. We do schedule according to when our attorneys are available. They are part-time, so there's varied availability, but they are put on a calendar and the appointment is set. So the caller can pick the appointment time, and then we call them back. By doing it this way, we've had a capture rate of around 95%. We're able to talk to over 95% of the folks that contact us. When we were doing the voicemail route, it was bad. We only talked to maybe 60% of the people who left a voicemail. But like I said, it works much better having the answering service. Staffed by TALS attorneys, they're TALS employees. We do not sell anything. Their name goes into a very secure case management system. Again, all we collect is their name, their phone number, and the county which they are. And then sometimes they'll ask their age because we do track by 60 plus and then under 60. Open to anyone. So unlike legal aid, we do not means test, which means I don't care if they are completely destitute and not working or if they are millionaires. Now, I will say, with that being said, over 90% of the folks we talk to on the helpline, just by the questions that they're asking us, we know that they are, under that poverty level. If someone calls us and says, I have a $5 million estate, what do? We quickly refer them to other services, right? We don't even bother to help that because that's not what our helpline is designed for. It's designed for folks who don't have any other recourse or any other funds to pay for an attorney any other way. Any questions there? Oh, and this is where I would send your folks that are undocumented because we talk to folks every single day who are not U.S. citizens. We don't ask, not one of our questions. We don't track that. So send them on. Any questions about the helpline? The demand for the helpline is there. It's more of a capacity issue if you're wondering why we don't talk to more people. I will say I always encourage folks to call at 8:30 Central when the lines open to get an appointment because I've seen the lines have to be closed by 9 a.m. Central. In 30 minutes, all of the slots are full. Yeah. Yep. So encourage them if they say, well, I've tried, I can't get in. If they call right at 8:30, they should be able to. All right, so that's one of our resources. Another one is an email-based resource where folks can ask legal questions and receive legal advice via email. So how this works is you go to TennesseeFreeLegalAnswers.org, and it is a project between TALS and the American Bar Association. This was the first state level free legal answers project that is now expanded to almost every single state in the union. So TALS is kind of a trailblazer when it comes to using technology in the practice of law for folks who need access to justice. So you go there, you see if you qualify. This does ask a few more questions, but not many. We serve folks that are 200% of federal poverty or below, but we don't collect any verifications. It's all self-attestation. So I'm just saying that. So, folks answer how they answer, right? They ask their question, and then we have 200 or 300 attorneys all across the state of Tennessee who have agreed to review questions and provide legal advice. They review the questions, they draft up an answer, and send it back to the original person who emailed them. the original questioner. So they log back in, they set up a really simple account. These are for folks who maybe are slightly more sophisticated or want an answer in written format. You can use this. We often have people call the helpline and use Tennessee Free Legal Answers. Totally acceptable, and we encourage people to do that. We do not check for citizenship again. So unfortunately, this solution is only available in English at the moment, but we don't ask for citizenship or check for citizenship. So questions, comments, concerns there? All right, and the turnaround time is pretty quick. And we hold clinics across the state with law schools. So we have a lot of law students who are interested in reviewing these questions and under the supervision of an attorney providing responses. All right. If you have folks with Medicaid related questions or concerns, we always recommend that folks send them to the Tennessee Justice Center. That's what they were created and designed to do, particularly when it comes to the lovely time of year when we are doing redeterminations. I know that some just happened, and I think there are some more. There's another round of redeterminations coming. If folks have questions, comments, concerns with that process, I would send them to Tennessee Justice Center. TJC is amazing and awesome and one of our partners. Yeah, we really encourage folks to utilize their services. I did highlight a couple of medical legal partnerships that are available in the state of Tennessee. This is not all of them. This is not an exhaustive list. So if you're going to say like, but there's this one and this one, I'm like, I know, but I just didn't have room to put all of the partnerships over here. I did include Shade Tree Clinic because that is probably one of the oldest, if not the oldest, medical legal partnership here in the state of Tennessee. It is a combination of partners. Vanderbilt is very involved, as is Legal Aid of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberlands. Memphis Child is a project out in Memphis, obviously, with Le Bonheur and Memphis Area Legal Services, and they provide legal services to families and children. There's something in Knoxville. I did try to pick one from each of the Grand Regions. The Mental Health Law Partnership is with Helen Ross McNabb in Knoxville, and I believe also Ballard Health as well. They provide this mental health law partnership to their clients. But there's also a family medical legal partnership in East Tennessee at the UT hospitals up there. And I believe there's also one at Erlanger in Chattanooga. So there are a couple of medical legal partnerships. Encourage folks to refer people to these if they are appropriate candidates. There was no way I could include all of the eligibility information on one slide, but if you need more information or if you need help accessing these, you can always email me and I'm happy to provide any additional information and help getting to them, or if you have folks that you think might benefit from those services. Unfortunately, the medical legal partnerships are generally serve a small number of clients, but the clients they do serve, they really, really, really are able to help. I've always been trying to get a senior law clinic started here in the state of Tennessee. We don't have one yet, so still a goal. Maybe we'll get one, a medical legal partnership there. I do know that TALS will be working with the geriatrics folks over at Vanderbilt and Dr. Carrie Plummer and Belmont University College of Law and Vanderbilt. I think some Vanderbilt law students will be there too. And we're going to do a wills clinic for some folks at some senior housing. So really excited about that and really looking forward to that. It's going to be in April. So really, really excited about that. Scams and frauds, I did include this slide in here. I know it might be hard to read, but sometimes folks just have questions. Where can I go if I need to find more information and details about these scams and frauds? And they keep calling me and they tell me I'm going to be arrested if I don't go to jury, if I don't send them a green dot card because I was supposed to go to jury duty and all this kind of stuff. So we always send them over to Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That is a federal organization and they're amazing. So there's their information. AARP here in Tennessee does a really good job of keeping their scams and fraud page updated and very helpful. Age Well Middle Tennessee does as well. And the Tennessee Attorney General's office has a schemes and swindles page that we always send folks to, and they do a pretty good job of keeping that updated with some of the most recent scams, frauds, schemes, anything you can imagine. There's always seems to be bad actors out there trying to take advantage of folks, and it's horrible and terrible. I know most of these seem senior related. Those are just the ones I'm most familiar with. Consumer, financial, and the Tennessee Attorney Generals are not. They're more general, but AARP, obviously, and Age Old Tennessee are more senior related. But anyway, it's important information for all of us, right? I know I've gotten told, and been told that I'm going to be arrested if I don't go because I didn't go to jury duty. Actually, I'm a lawyer. I really want to be picked for jury duty. I'm like the only person ever who says, please, please, please pick me. And I've never, ever gotten that letter for jury duty. So anyway, so on I wait. So I know for a fact I would not be the one not going to jury duty or trying to get out of it. But yeah, so that's a recent one that we've seen, and it just varies. Folks come up with new things every single day, and these websites do a good job of staying on top of it and providing that information for individuals. Empowering patients, I just kind of wanted to, we've talked a lot about resources, but just a few things that you guys can do. And I know that you're all doing them, so I'm preaching to the choir, but I just kind of put them on the slide. So active listening, just listening to your folks as they tell you and your patients as they kind of tell you about their lives. Sometimes in that meandering story, there's some little nuggets of, what's going on and what's troubling them. So just listening and being active with that active listener and asking those sometimes pointed questions to try and get more details to figure out where to send patients for additional help. Using the legal wellness checkup, you don't have to sit there and do that with a patient, but you could refer them to that bot, which if they answer the questions and work through it, they could figure out if what they're facing is truly a legal issue and maybe get some and if it is, have some resources. And then know about available resources, which is why you're here today and why we've kind of talked about some available resources. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about, for the last thing to kind of wrap up our presentation, something that's very important to your clients and important to me. I worked for the Tennessee Commission on Aging and Disability for about 6 years. I was general counsel there. And part of what we did was always trying to perfect our folks that were age 60 and over and those that suffered from disabilities across the state of Tennessee. And I cannot tell you how many times I thought things go terribly wrong when people didn't have these 3 documents in place. It didn't matter their age. I had a family find me one time in a 18 or 20 story state building because their 22-year-old daughter, had been in a car accident. And the physicians were looking at them for guidance on what decisions that needed to be made. She was 22. She was in college. She didn't need a power of attorney until the day that she did. So I always remind folks, particularly healthcare folks and folks that are involved in the healthcare field, if nothing else, if you can remind your clients and your patients that if they have these documents, it makes life so much simpler for them, and it lets their wishes be known in advance of an issue coming around and coming to light, right? So, Will, that's what happens to your stuff after you pass away. That's probably the least important of the 3 documents, but folks always ask about it. And we always say, yes, we think that everybody should have a will. The power of attorney are the documents that I've seen be the most helpful. In Tennessee, we have power of attorney for healthcare and a power of attorney for finances. That power of attorney for healthcare can be invaluable because if there isn't one that appoints an attorney in fact or someone to make decisions for me when I cannot make them, the only other option is conservatorship. And that is not a pleasant process. It is an official process that strips their rights away from people, right? It is very valuable tool in some situations, and then in other situations, it is not the best recourse or the least restrictive option for folks. So having a durable power of attorney in place that tells, the medical care field what I want and who I want to make decisions for me when I cannot do it is something that I cannot stress how valuable that is. And it seems like more hospitals here in Tennessee are starting to file those emergency conservatorships for healthcare to get folks into long-term care settings, which is wonderful. However, there are some unintended consequences of that sometimes, which involves freezing folks' accounts and all kinds of things that you don't really think of when you think about, just healthcare. So just encourage your patients to have these things in place, and then that advanced care plan, right? And folks always ask what's the difference between an advanced care plan or advanced care care directive and a power of attorney. And I always say, think of an advanced care plan as more narrowly focused. It tells healthcare providers, and again, I'm preaching to the choir, what I want to do for my end of life decisions when I can't make those decisions, right? Whereas a power of attorney for healthcare can give broader powers to your attorney, in fact, to that person. Like they can get medical records and all kinds of things with that power of attorney for healthcare that you can't necessarily get through the advanced care plan. All right, I'm off my soapbox. Any questions? And I'm going to put the slide up with my email address. We have about 2 minutes. Sorry, I talked a lot. Questions, comments, concerns? Nope. All right. Well, I'll turn it back over to Maddie. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Laura. That was a lot of great information, a lot of great resources. So I look forward to getting some of that from you and some of those social media graphics that clinics can use to help promote the services. Maybe we can get some more action going to your bots from here on out. Make sure that people know about those resources and are able to use them. So thank you so much for sharing. As usual, I will get all the resources and the recording sent out for anyone who may have had to step away and missed a portion of it. I know you'll want to go back and catch it because there was, like I said, a lot of great information being shared there. So thank you again, Laura. We really appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Thank you, guys. You're a wonderful audience. Any questions, don't hesitate to email me. I'm totally happy to answer emails.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.